welcome. And of course, we know as a superpower, may obligasyon sa mundo. The United States has an obligation to the world being a superpower. But we also know that it has an obligation first to its own people. So meaning we should expect them to espouse the principles that they believe in, democracy, justice. We should expect that that's the kind of policy that they will implement around the world. But we should also expect that their foreign policy will be based on what the national interest is. No? So we cannot base our national defense policy based on the national interest of another country. Meaning, hindi pwede ang mangyayari doon, iaasa na lang natin ang depensa natin sa iba. Why? Because when their interest conflicts with ours, where does that leave us? So if you notice, the National Defense Treaty has been there since the 50s. Discussion about the U.S. helping our military and their offers of help has always been there, has always been welcome. They have done much for our military, but we're back in the 70s and 80s where we're faced with certain events, and we have to cry to our big brother for us to have a credible defense. No? So now that they're saying that they're willing to help our military, first let me clarify, what we need is aid and grants, not simply selling us military hardware. Because the situation now and in the 70s is so different. You can buy the military hardware anywhere. In fact, there are a lot of countries around the world who are willing to sell to us. But there are countries who do not want us to buy from other countries. No? So meron din world politics involved dito, no? And the national interest. So if the U.S. is going to say we have a treaty, and if they're going to say we're going to help you and we want to help you, help us the way you help other countries wherein you build up their military at minimal cost for them. Why? Because we do understand nowadays it's economic power that matters. No? And since it's economic power that matters, we have to focus on building our economy, and we have to focus on our number one resource, which is our people. And how do we do that? If we can spend the 40 billion for modernization on economic and social services rather than on the military, then that would be a big help. But if the U.S. is simply going to say, allot the money and we're going to sell you at a cheaper price, remember, usually this military hardware is used military hardware, and we have to buy the parts from them. So it's a commercial deal rather than a big brother type of helping a nation that has common principles and that is espousing national or international interest in the region. No? So to recap, no? Number one, welcome yung tulong nila. But tignan natin what kind of help, and let's specify. I challenge this administration to be totally open to our people of what kind of military aid we're going to get, and whether it's going to be purchased or whether it's going to be in the form of grants and aid. And let us also see how the military is going to build up in the next few years, because this offer has been there for 4 decades already. So can't we have a 5-year or 10-year or 15-year plan? No? So if the U.S. is going to help us, the question is, are we going to help ourselves? So what are we going to say? Kaya na ng sarili natin militar, or we will have the naval capability, for example, in what? In 5 years? In 3 years? In 15 years? But if it is simply handshaking and in front of the newspapers and watching it on television, but every time a bigger, more powerful nation enters into our national territory, we cannot do anything but file a diplomatic protest. No? That is not the kind of military we want, and that's not the kind of help that we expect. No? So I think the ball is in our hands. No? We cannot blame the U.S. for that kind of offer. So it's now time for us to be the one to assert that we are your allies, we have been loyal, we have voted with the U.S. in the United Nations, we have had a long history together, so especially during the Cold War. So the question now is, how far is the U.S. willing to go? But we have to be the one to lead the way and tell them this is what we need, and please give it to us. Secondly, as just I will give my full analysis of the 1 year of the administration. next few days. I'd just like to continue in our discussion last time. No? I gave the administration a above average mark in keeping itself clean or in terms of good governance. But as I've said, there are two parts of good governance. Number one, making sure walang corrupt dun sa administrasyon mo. Number two, making sure na may napaparusahan, making sure na may deterrence. Because maaaring marami pa rin sa opisyal ngayon ay nakikiramdam o takot pa. That doesn't mean na walang corruption na nangyayari. Maaaring hindi lang nahuhuli o maaaring sinusubukan pa lang ng iba. So, as I said, diba, sa Pilipinas, bawal magnakaw ng korte. Pero pag maraming ninakaw, pagtatakpan. So, it's important that they go after the past sins. No? Not only of the Arroyo administration, but of all past administration. Now, this is where I give them average or below average marks, no, in going after the past administration. The whole focus has been on removing the ombudsman. And that's a vital part, I understand. Transition is also excusable. Alam naman natin that pagbago administrasyon at totoo din na may mga landmines na nilagay yung dating administrasyon. So all of that is acceptable and all of that we have to give the administration some understanding. But, having said that, hindi natin pwedeng tanggapin na yung corrupt, yun ang magiging mas productive at efficient. Tapos kung sinong malinis, siya ang magiging inefficient. For example, no, let's take the DOTC. There are three issues that has been in the newspapers, have been in the news for the last few months. No? Yung radar system, that cost more than 10 billion pesos compared to other systems that will cost much less. There has been no thought or resolution or action by the palace on that. Number two, yung Stratcom. The latest is that the President himself said that it is under study. Isang taon lang under study yan. I'm not taking sides whether or not valid yung kontrata or mabuti. They're the one doing the technical analysis. But why so much inefficiency? Why did it take 1 year or almost 1 year before we determine kung okay ba o hindi yung Stratcom? The third one is the NAIA 3. When the past administration left, all the contracts were already in place at magsisimula na yung mga contractors na tapusin. 1 year later, nakahold pa rin lahat ng contracts, hindi pa rin yung umpisahan. Ang latest na balita ko doon is that they're negotiating with other contractors to lessen the cost by 5, 10, or 15%. Yung 15% na yon, kung pinatapos at tapos na ngayon, hindi lang sakop ng inflation yon, pero yung image natin worldwide. No? So this is 3 examples in one department. I'll give you another department na very good. No? Ang DPWH has been very good. They've canceled a lot of contracts na walang meeting, especially dun sa Undoy. They have lessened the cost of contracts by being strict sa contractors and sa district engineers. So very good yun. But question, bakit walang kinakasuhan? Kung totoong overpriced yung ibang Undoy projects, bakit hindi kinasuhan yung hindi nag-bidding? At bakit wala pa rin sa website at hindi pa rin nakikita hanggang ngayon yung mga projects na pinangako sa akin, which is about 15 billion pesos right after the Undoy. No? If malaki, and I'm sure malaki ang natipid ng DPWH, as I said, it's very good, di ba? We should be seeing more projects and DPWH should get a much higher budget. So ito yung sinasabi po natin na ang efficiency at productivity ay dapat mas mataas sa hindi corrupt. Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na no one's at home ngayon, tapos sasagot na no one's at home para mangurakot. Diba? Hindi tamang analysis na pagka nangungurakot ay efficient ka at gumaganda ekonomiya. Pag hindi ka nangungurakot naman, okay lang kasi hindi ka naman nangungurakot. Pero ang productivity at efficiency mo mababa. We should have both. We should have clean and honest government leading to more productivity and efficiency. So having said that, how can we be efficient in going after graft and corruption if, first, ang solution was a truth commission na declare to unconstitutional. Magwa 1 year na, wala pang replacement. Anong alternative natin sa truth commission? For example, has the secretaries been ordered to conduct a fact-finding? Ang DOTC ba nag-fact-finding sa ZTE? Ang DNB ba nag-fact-finding sa Garcia Generals? Nag-fact-finding ba sa mga corruption sa PNP? Ang agriculture ba nag-fact-finding sila sa swine scam at saka sa fertilizer scam? Because even if we have a new ombudsman, the ombudsman can only prosecute in accordance with evidence. And as a reminder to this administration, some of the cases are ongoing, like the ZTE. So even the new ombudsman will have to rely on the fact-finding or the gathering of evidence. So why doesn't this administration full force help the ombudsman and help the prosecutorial services by doing their own investigations? No? The other thing is inabolish yung Presidential Commission Against Graft and Corruption. No? So who will be the watchdog over the present crop of secretaries, USECs, undersecretaries, directors, until the grassroots levels? No? What system has been put in place so that contracts can be analyzed not only by our brothers and sisters in media, but also by ordinary citizens? Wala pang FOI. So habang wala pang FOI, first of all, bakit wala pang FOI at bakit inabot ng isang taon, and bakit yung past nung senador pa lang ang presidente, he was so hot on the FOI, pero ngayon na presidente na siya, maraming kondisyon na FOI ang gusto nila. I think kaya nawawalan ng faith ang tao sa gobyerno dahil iba ang sinasabi pag oposisyon ka pa, iba ang sinasabi pag administrasyon. Having said that, we're willing to work with them. Bakit nga hindi ipasa na kaagad ang FOI? But habang hindi pa pinapasa ang FOI, pwedeng magkaroon ng executive order na magkaroon ng sistema ng transparency and accountability para lahat ng mga proyekto at programa ay nahihimay ng mga NGOs, ng mga concerned citizens. No? Witness Protection and Whistleblowers Act. Part and parcel of going against graft and corruption, and part and parcel of making sure, I'm sure ang Aquino at ang Presidente hindi magiging corrupt. No? Yun ang pangako nila, yun ang legacy nila. But what about the people working for him? What about the people under him? Are we 100% sure, can he vouch that they will not be corrupt? Or, remember when we say graft and corruption, we also talk about wastage. Pwede din dahil incompetent ang ibang officials ay magkaroon ng graft and corruption. For example, in the past administration, yung mga gamot na nag-expire sa mga malalaking warehouse. No? So, this is also an example of graft and corruption. So, whistleblowers play a big part. Habang ginagawa pa ng Kongreso o habang pinapasa yung Whistleblowers Act, hindi ba pwede magkaroon ng sariling programa ang gobyerno? Bakit yung tricycle at jeepney drivers ay pwedeng bigyan ng pondo na wala naman congressional action yon? Diba? Basta ginamit na lang yung sabat. Bakit hindi magkaroon ng sistema ng reward sa mga whistleblowers? Diba? Let them protect themselves. I mean, the government should protect them. But yung iba naman sabihin, bigyan nila lang kami ng reward, and then sagot na namin sarili namin kung mag-disappear kami or paano trabaho. Remember, marami sa whistleblowers nawawalan ng trabaho. Kaya dapat malaki ang reward nila. So for example, mag-whistleblow ka at makakatipid ang gobyerno ng 2 million pesos. Masama ba bigyan siya ng 2 million or 20 million pesos dahil nakitid ang gobyerno is 20 million pesos. So the administration does not have to wait for Congress to have its own version of a incentive and disincentive system for whistleblowers and for the corrupt. And lastly, the Witness Protection Program. No? The Witness Protection Program is run by the Executive Department. Ang nagbibigay ng budget niyan, EDF, ang niyan, DOJ. Our DOJ is doing very good. No? I think all sectors are happy with the DOJ. It's not perfect, but isa to sa mga mataas ang rating together with the DPWH administration na ito. But ang question, is the administration doing everything to improve and in fact to make it a centerpiece program, yung witness protection? We cannot get to the bottom of the crimes, of the graft and corruption, and of the what's happening in the country in terms of those who are doing wrong, unless we have a strong whistleblowers program and a strong witness protection program. No? And then finally, yung sa statement ni Chairman Villantes na hindi niya priority ang Hello Garci. Kung titignan natin ang election law at titignan natin yung if we look at I'll read mamaya yung nasa election law, very clear na obligasyon ng COMELEC na imbestigahan at gawin yung tamang ito po, no? Article 11, 1986 1997 Constitution, Section 1, no? Sorry. Section 2 ng Article 9. The Commission on Elections shall exercise the following functions and powers. 1. Enforce and administer all laws and regulations relative to the conduct of an election, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, and recall. Clearly, enforcing the law regarding all elections includes 2004 election and includes na kung may mga bawal na ginawa ay imbestigahan at habulin. If you look at the election code, well, still in the Constitution, no? File upon a verified complaint on its own initiative, petitions in court for inclusion and exclusion of voters, investigate and where appropriate, prosecute cases of violation of election law, including acts of omission constituting election fraud, offenses, and malpractice. Paragraph 8, recommend to the President the removal of any officer employee it has deputized or the imposition of any disciplinary action for violation or disregard or disobedience to its directive and decision. Sa Omnibus Election Code, nakalagay powers and functions of the Commission. In addition to the powers and functions conferred upon by the Constitution, the Commission shall have exclusive charge of the enforcement and administration of all laws relative to the conduct of elections. I'll give you a copy now. Anong sinasabi nito? Sino ang may obligasyon mag-imbestiga? COMELEC. Sino may obligasyon mag-file ng cases? COMELEC. Pag hindi empleyado ng COMELEC, katulad ng Garci Generals, sino may obligasyon na magrekomenda sa Presidente na tanggalin o kaya kasuhan? COMELEC. So makikita po natin sa lahat ng anggulo, obligasyon ni Chairman Brillantes bilang Chairman ng COMELEC, imbestigahan ako. Anong klaseng excuse yung sasabihin niya? Wala pa naman siya doon at hindi siya nag-promote sa kanila. Remember, hindi ito katulad ng ibang posisyon na hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin na walang kaso. Yung pagiging director ng COMELEC, trust and confidence yan, perception ng tao na hindi mandaraya yung nandyan. So kung involved sa Hello Garcia man nandyan, hindi dapat na sa maselan na posisyon hanggang walang investigasyon at na-clear sila ng gusto. Ang sinabi ni Mr. Jimenez, spokesman ng COMELEC, nagkaroon na ng investigasyon, pero dalawa, based on affidavit and based that Garcia State is a wiretap, wala silang nakita. Ibig sabihin, hindi ito tunay na investigasyon. Moro-moro nangyari under the Abalos Commission. What would you expect under the Abalos Commission kung hindi i-clear din yung mga Garcia boys? So ang question kay Chairman Brillantes, Chairman, anong kinatatakot mo? Bakit ka takot mag-imbestiga? Bakit dati sinasabi mo abogado ka ni FPJ, ngayon lahat ng kapangyarihan na sa'yo para malaman ko ano talaga nangyari sa boto ni FPJ, bakit ngayon natatakot ka mag-imbestiga? At bakit ngayon ikaw pa nagiging abogado ni Garci ng mga Hello Garci boys at ng Arroyo administration? So again, I call on the Palace. You were proactive pagdating sa ombudsman at sinasabi mo pinoprotektahan ang administrasyon at maraming kaso na hindi pinafile. Klarong-klaro sa batas, obligasyon ng COMELEC mag-imbestiga at filean ng kaso. Bakit ngayon yung na-appoint yung chairman ay pinagyayabang na meron naman na re-appoint ng 14 times, so siya naman pangalawang beses lang. Pero sinasabi niya, hindi niya obligasyon mag-imbestiga. Lastly, hindi naman kailangan siya mismo mag-imbestiga. Sinabi na ni Director Rapalan sa isang radio interview, hinihintay lang niya yung utos na mag-imbestiga at i-imbestigahan niya. So this leads me to believe or at least add to the evidence yung sinasabi ng NGOs at media groups na operator si Chairman Brillantes. Bakit? Ang operator takot na kasuhan o imbestigahan ang mga ina-allege na operator kasi mag-swing sa'yo. So kung sinasabi ni Chairman na siya ay abogado lang at hindi naman siya operator, wala siyang kinalaman sa pandaraya, bakit yung mga alleged mandaraya ay ayaw niyang imbestigahan? No? So sana yun ang magyari. No? And so, those questions. No? I'd just like to mention, no? Both si Chairman Abalos and si Commissioner Garciliano, nakuha nila ang kanilang retirement benefit. No? 2.9 million yung kay Commissioner Garciliano, 3.1 million yung kay Chairman Abalos. No? Bakit? Kasi sinasabi walang kaso. And not only that, yung monthly nila, tuloy-tuloy nilang nakukuha. So, ibig sabihin, niloko na ang sambayan ng Pilipino, binabayaran pa natin sila tuloy-tuloy. So, kung sasabihin ni Chairman Abbas, wala namang kasing kaso, sino ba ang gagawa ng kaso? So, hindi ba ang COMELEC din? So, two things. Gusto ba natin na ipagpatuloy na bayaran ng retirement benefits ni Chairman Abbas at si Commissioner Garciliano? Niloko na tayo ni Chairman Garciliano sa Hello Garci, binabayaran pa natin siya. Number two, yung mga Garci boys na nandyan, papayagan ba natin mag-retire yung iba at makuha yung million nilang retirement fee? Dahil nang walang investigasyon at dahil yung bagong chairman ayaw mag-investiga. So, I'm addressing this not only to Chairman Dunyang, but to the balance. Kasi ito ba yung tuwid na daan na gusto natin sa COMELEC?
Sir, should balance between the reappointment of Brillantes?
They should either not reappoint him or they should order him or make it a condition for his appointment to find out the truth sa Hello Garci. Di ba kaya nila tinanggal yung dating ombudsman? Kaya sabi nila yung bagong ombudsman, gusto nila mag-all out sa past administration at sa lahat ng korupsyon. So, hindi interference sa independence yun. Kasi hindi nila inutusan kung ano resulta ng investigation. Inutusan lang nila na ito ang dapat investigahan at dapat priorities.
Sir, with the statement of Chairman Brillantes, do you think he will never cleanse the talk?
As it is, parang ang nangyayari kung makaka-escape siya o kung walang tumitingin, gagawin niya yung gusto niya. Hindi yung gusto ng mamamayan, hindi yung pinangako ng Presidente. Remember, the President promised to resolve the issues of the past administration. And remember the original since the Hello Garci. Marami masyadong tatamaan dito, no? From the Garci generals to yung issue ngayon, yung paggamit ng PCSO funds, paggamit ng OWA funds, all of this lalabas sa investigasyon ng Hello Garci.
Sir, related lang sa Pinoy administration, yung statement niya recently na nag-criticism yung nireklamo niya yung tatlong gabinete niya na puro bad news. Your comment on that?
I think part of the President's being transparent and being open with the people and with our brothers and sisters in media, he was just really expressing his frustration. But I think he was reminded enough already in the recent days that if problema yung ibang secretary, simple ang solution, they serve at your pleasure, accept their resignation, or make them resign. I think an issue has also been made about them being pabigat because they always say bad news. No? And I think much advice has already been given to the President to be able to listen to both good and bad news at the same time. No? So ang akin, parang people are with you. 70% of our people are not judging yet and giving a chance. But I think 1 year is enough for on-the-job training. And kung ano man mga tama na ginawa niya in 1 year, then mas lalong gawin. Pero kung ano man mali at kung sino man ang hindi tama ang ginawa, tanggalin na at palitan. And again, I'd like to recommend, hindi lang kapartido or hindi lang mga malalapit sa kanya, kung hindi the best of the best ang kunin.
Sir, yung patuloy na pagbaba ng ratings ni Toy, parang indication daw kasi wala siyang malaking achievement even after 1 year.
It's very difficult to have achievements in 1 year, especially if you're coming from a semi-dictatorship and a very corrupt administration. Kasi remember, buhos yung pera ng Arroyo administration in all sectors before at 10 years halos nakaupo. So napakahirap at meron talagang understandable handicap, no, ang anuman bagong administration. Having said that, it's not an excuse to be productive and efficient. No? So I think partially yung pagbaba ng ratings niya ay inertia. Galing sa napakataas, so what goes up has to come down, di ba? Minsan, even sa ratings, applicable yun. Number 2, mataas ang expectation, mahirap ang buhay. Pero number 3, the administration should see that it all sa policies na nila. No? For example, I think a big factor why bumababa is yung prices ng bilihin. Yung kawalan ng trabaho at prices ng bilihin. But it was their choice kung saan magpo-focus. At it was their choice na hindi tanggalin ang VAT sa gasolina muna para makontrol muna yung pagtaas ng bilihin. Diba? So, while it is true that there are is true that the President is not totally to blame, and while it's true that we should expect na bababa ang rating, natural lang yun, hindi pwede maghugas yung kamay ng administration. Kailangan i-review nila ang policies nila, ano yung tama at mali. And then lastly, medyo mahina sa pagro-roadmap or pag-articulate ng plano ang Presidente. So dalawa lang ang administrasyon na to. So dalawa lang yan. May mga plano ba na hindi lang natin alam? In that case, yung communication group niya at yung pag-articulate ang problema. O wala pong plano na yun ang importante na may ipakita sa atin ang plano. So you name the problem. Universal healthcare, ano ba ang solusyon nila doon? Agriculture, productivity, ano ba ang solusyon doon? Education, basic education and SUCs, ano ba ang roadmap doon? Ano ba problema, ano solusyon? I think kung gaano kagaling ang Presidente, remember nang galing tayo sa kampanya na sila naging champion sa communication, na-articulate nila kung anong klaseng administrasyon ang gusto, kung anong difference nila sa Arroyo government. Right now, ang na-articulate nila, corrupt ang Arroyo administration, kami hindi. Hindi nila na-articulate na eto ginawa ng Arroyo administration sa ekonomiya, eto nagawa nila sa infra, sa education, eto ang kaibahan namin, eto gagawin namin. And remember, there's no harm in admitting kung meron namang policy yung past administration na nagustuhan nila at maganda. For example, yung conditional cash transfer. That was a program of the past administration, but they expanded on it. There's no shame on that. Diba? As long as sabihin nga nila, walang corruption in the conditional cash transfer. But yun ang hinahanap ng lahat ng sektor ngayon. So sa transportation, halimbawa, no, 3 linggo na nasa dyaryo yung Roro versus Lolo. No, yung floating ports na roll in, roll out, or yung Lolo na load in, load out, or yung mas mahal na kontrakto ng Pilipinong gumagawa, or yung French. So, hindi malinaw o ma-articulate ng gobyernong ito, ano bang plano nila sa mga ports, ano bang stand nila, sino ba dapat gumagawa, foreign contract, may Filipino first ba tayo sa mga contractors, no? So, all of this, isa sa malaking issues ng Arroyo administration, mga foreign loans. But ngayon, maraming nilalakad na loans na hindi naman pinapakita pa sa publiko. No? So, I think it's either the communication or planning or both na problema nila na ito ang kailangan nila. They have to work on this, and the SONA will be the perfect opportunity for them to articulate this. I'm hoping this SONA will be a SONA that will show us where we're going, what we have to do, and what we as citizens can do to help. Yung presidente mismo, malinis. Yung presidente mismo, tingin ko efficient. I think he's going to work, he's doing, etc. But his administration is not meeting the expectations of the people in terms of productivity and efficiency. I'll give you an example. Ang express lane ng passport during the Arroyo administration is half the time of yung passport in this administration. So, kung ikaw ang kumukuha ng passport, sasabihin mo, corrupt yung last administration, pero I get my passport 1 week faster than this administration. Prices are higher in this administration than last administration. Partly not their fault, but partly because hindi nila in-address yung part ng taxes sa VAT na windfall naman. So, I'm referring to the administration, not the President's action himself. Ang Presidente mismo nagsabing may 3 na, ano yung word na ginamit niya? Hindi pa bigat Pasanin, no? So, I often tell my own staff, no? Are you a blessing or are you a burden? Because ang trabaho ng staff mo, lalo ng kabinete, is to be a blessing to you. Alter ego mo sila, not to be a burden. Kasi pag burden sila sa Presidente, burden sila sa bansa. But the problem is, of course, you work with these people, your friends, etc. So, mahirap na to let go of people who are close to you. But that's the job that we've chosen. Pag nasa public service ka, walang personalang trabaho lang. So, it's up to the President to get the best of the best. And if he's saying na ang problema ay may mga cabinet members who are not pulling their weight, then then address it. Either demand that they do it or replace them.
Do you